Welcome to the Operations Science Podcast, where the art and science of operational excellence come to life through captivating stories of triumph, challenge, and transformation from the front lines of industry. Our distinguished guests, from manufacturing pioneers and medical device innovators to aerospace visionaries, diagnostic lab leaders, and major capital project leaders, unveil the hidden patterns and powerful insights that drive exceptional results in the complex world of operations. Join us on this journey of discovery as we explore the brilliant minds behind the systems that make our world work and uncover the leadership secrets that could revolutionize your approach to operations forever. This podcast is brought to you by the Operations Science Institute, the home of the science behind every operation. If you want to be a better operations or project leader, discover the principles of operations science for yourself. For a quick tour, visit the OSI Insider portal. The web address is insider.opscience.org, and be sure to check out the new book, Operations Science Applied, available on Amazon. Here is your host, Ed Pound.
Welcome to the Operations Science Podcast. In industries where product quality, regulatory discipline, and operational reliability are non-negotiable, such as automotive manufacturing, leaders must do far more than simply run production lines. They must align people, processes, and performance across multiple sites and cultures. In complex manufacturing environments, even small misunderstanding about how operations actually behave can ripple through production systems, affecting lead times, quality outcomes, and financial results. Today, we'll explore what it really takes to deploy improvement initiatives across global operations, how leaders motivate teams to embrace better ways of working, and why clarity about operations systems function can make the difference between isolated improvements and sustained success. Our guest today works right in the middle of these challenges as a continuous improvement leader for automotive global manufacturing. Please welcome to the Operations Science Podcast, Andre Scarance. Hi, Andre. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Ed. What about you?
Good. I'm doing great. Looking forward to some spring weather.
Perfect. Me too. So do I. Okay. First of all, Ed, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and talk a little bit about the continuous improvement and operational excellence on our challenging environment that we are facing today, considering all the global change that we are facing on our way of work, I would say.
Indeed. Well, continuous improvement is one of my favorite topics, and you've got great background there. So I think the audience will really get a lot out of it. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So let's get started. Could you describe your role and what it means to ensure that you've got these multiple sites, because you're working with a national company, multi-site company, to ensure that the multiple manufacturing sites stay aligned with the corporate standards while still meeting local production demands?
Yeah, basically my key role is to keep this standardization across the business, making sure that all our sites here in Europe, where I'm focused, are using the corporate standards. So my key challenge is to deploy the strategy to all those sites and make sure that they are working using the standard process that are part of our business system that drive us to a better improvement.
So when you mentioned, you've got a corporate strategy. How does that work with the different sites? Is corporate strategy put together by corporate and then put down to the sites, or do the sites have input into creating that strategy?
Yes, we have our corporate strategy that's cascaded to the regions and later to the sites. Basically, we use the key strategic issues or the key strategic objectives defined by the corporate, and you make sure that this cascade to the sites through our business systems to make sure that we are all aligning and running for the same direction.
Okay. So where, in your experience, do organizations struggle when they try to employ cascade the strategy across multiple sites?
I think the biggest challenge is to balance this global standard with the local reality because each site has different constraints, histories, cultures, different needs. but the way that we need to work is to understand what must be standard versus what we can make flexible, because that's the key, right? Because not all the sizes are the same, not all the countries are the same, not all the product lines are the same, but we are in the same company, so we need to drive the same strategy, but consider specific needs.
And how many sites are you working across in your role?
In my current role, I have 4 sites, 3 different countries.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's it's not just sites, it's cultures, right? Different cultures that you have to work across also. Okay, so you mentioned that continuous improvement should not belong just to the continuous improvement team, which I think is your team. What does it take to make a continuous improvement part of everybody's daily work?
Uh, Continuous improvement, we can say that's the same for quality, the same for safety. It not belongs only for EHS or to the quality team. Everybody is responsible for that. So everybody needs to work daily to improve their own work and make sure that everything that we are doing daily is focused to make our site, our process better, and to deliver the quality product or quality service to our customers.
And so, is there anything specific that you do to get people involved so that they support that? How does that work? Are there daily meetings? Do you have weekly meetings? How do you coordinate that across sites?
As this is a global standard, part of our business system, this is embedded on our culture. We are a very mature company, so this has been built for a long time, for a long journey, and this is part of the team in their daily activities, on their daily meetings, on tier meetings, on operational reviews, on all employee meetings. So every time that they have a chance to work and talk about continuous improvement, they take this opportunity and work and speak about.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Eaton is a well-established company, been around for a long time, and the framework, it sounds like it's been in place for quite a while. So, when you walk into a plant for the first time, what do you look for when you're looking to see if the operation is stable, if it's well managed, or if there are struggles going on?
The first point, when you have stable plants, the problems are more visible, and the people are discussing about the problems, they are discussing about the issues and how to address that. The people and the teams do not have any problem to embrace the rats. This is the most important things. What are our problems and how we are addressing that using all the tools available for us. And sites that we are really struggling are the ones that we working on a firefighting mode, on a panic mode, you know. So much more the results rely on people instead of the standard process, basically.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. Uh, if you see somebody in firefighting mode, everybody's busy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that things are going well. So many improvement projects fail because they start because teams are not aligned. And so I know you're working to help people do projects and start projects. What have you learned? Because we talked about this a little before the podcast. What have you learned about creating alignment before launching a project?
Uh, I would say, consider my background on project management and program management, the most important is to define clear the project. I like one of the famous phrase like speed is much more important when you just know the right direction. So if you are not able to describe correctly your problem, your issues, you are not going to be able to analyze and identify successfully the actions to overcome them.
Indeed. So when getting alignment, it's important to know your direction. Speed is secondary. One of the things we see with operation science is people have different mental models. For instance, the classic example is that people think the busier I am, the faster things get done. Other people understand that The actual relationship is as utilization increases, cycle time gets longer, things take longer to get done. How do you ensure that when you're working with these different teams that they have this same and a correct mental model about how operations behave? Do you have basic lean training? Do people go through some sort of operation science type training? How does that work?
Basically, we use our business systems, as I said, and you have different ways to analyze if the sites are behaving the same way. We have, I would say, annual operation assessment where we check the adherence to the process. We have the same standard visual management. We have some regular activities to reinforce the process, and we are all the time assessing how the sites are behaving. And for sure, we have a list of actions to back on track if needed, if something is doing something in a different way.
And those when we're talking about the standard systems, when you're looking at projects, are projects do they have a regular reporting cycle? So for instance, you set up a project and you think it's going to take 8 weeks. Does Is there a report out every week or every 2 weeks? How does that work?
Considering continuous improvement projects, what we have is a standard calendar for all the sites. So every week they have some critical points to be discussed. If you're talking about a needle mover project, for example, they needed to do this more often. And for sure, we have other, not less important is the word, but it's not critical like a needle mover ones, but they can track according to the criticity, the timeline, the impact on the P&L, and so on. But basically, every week we have some projects review.
Yeah, that I found that to be so true. The other thing I found about reporting is, particularly when you start on a project, it's always more effective to have more rapid reporting at the beginning, and then maybe as things settle in, it doesn't have to be, so maybe twice a week when you get started, and then as things settle in and people understand what's going on, maybe then once a week. And to your point, some projects, there's a lot of work going on. They don't have to report every week, maybe, every 2 weeks. But yeah, it sounds like you have a pretty well organized approach to that. But definitely keeping up with what's going on and requiring people to update, I think, is important. So, what does when you're working with these teams, having worked in corporate companies and worked both in frontline operations and in the corporate organization. I know when I was working in the corporate organization, you would go to a site and you say, "We're from corporate, we're here to help." And people kind of would roll their eyes like, "Oh my gosh, here they come again." How do you make sure that people see that you're really there as support and not as outside interference?
Uh, this bad situation happening sometimes. I would say that few time ago when we were starting this journey. But the most important is to be aligned to the site. Why we are there? Because they live their challenges, that issues daily. They know the process much more than us from corporate, from the business. And the point is, we are fresh eyes there. We are there to help. We are there to support, not to take the decisions, but to be more hands-on, or to bring them benchmark solutions as you have visibility from other sites as well, right? But the key word here would be alignment. We need to do a pre-work to understand what we are going to do there, what they expect from us, and how we are going to deliver. Clear, clear goals, clear metrics, clear milestones.
Right. Yeah, I think that's you hit on a really important point. When you bring in examples from other factories, I think people that really kind of perks people's ears because they want to kind of hear how other people are doing. People are naturally competitive, and that absolutely can help. And you're right. I mean, you do have to have alignment. I remember early in my career, I worked for a corporate team and we were doing the same sort of thing, going to the units and trying to establish standardization. The guy who was the executive running it had a brilliant idea. We would go into these units, and one of the major business units was um, aircraft engine manufacturing. And there were people in there who were really smart, but they were really opposed to what we were doing. And what this guy did was he actually, after about a year, he took some of those people out of their corporate jobs. And obviously, he worked with the local management and said, okay, those guys who are these big opponents, they need to come work in this organization, which was kind of an interesting twist because now, they can see both sides of the picture. But however you do it, as you mentioned, alignment is very important.
Usually, I use an example like you are in your home, somebody ring the bell, go to your preferred chair, change the TV channel, and that's it. So, what's going on, right? It's my home. I know what's going on.
Yes, definitely. Well, it's like you say, you just have to have alignment, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. Um, so in many factories, there's a heavy focus on tools and methodologies. Like, we have to do a pull system or we have to do standard work. How important do you find it that people understand the underlying behavior of operation systems? In other words, how much work in process should I have in the system, whether I use a pull system or whatever I call it? What level of utilization should I plan for? How do you contrast that with just using the tools of continuous improvement methodologies?
I would say that in the beginning of our journey, I would say 20 years ago or more, we focused much more on the tools implementations, application, than the alignment to the strategy. And considering the maturity that we have, we understand that the tools are just a support to achieve the goals, the ultimate goal. And the run a VSM is where we are going to identify our wastes, how we are going to reduce our lead time. That's the key target, the key goal, and what are the points in our value stream that we need to improve. How we are going to do that. And this is how you're going to design our future state that you drive us to identify the right tools and the right level or how deep you are going to implement each of them.
Yes. So along those lines, so when you start, before you launch a Kaizen event or an improvement project, I think you mentioned that you have people go through training before the event. Is that right?
I like the approach to in two ways. First of all, to give people, because we have a lot of self training available, so it's important people be ready or to learn by themselves before go to the event, the Kaizen, for example. And during the first day, we can decide if you are going to pass through all the training or we are going to discuss the key points of that specific tool that will be applied during the Kaizen. And during the Kaizen, the other approach would be during the Kaizen, you have the first day to have a kind of overview. And step by step, if you are applying step one of that specific tool, you are going to go in details, learn, and you are going to do, to apply. After we apply step two, you are going to learn and go deep on step two and apply for step two. The idea is to be much more practical than the theoretical, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. People love to talk about their jobs, but if they don't understand the basic concept, so it's a balance, right, between how how you spend time training or time working on problems. So when you're working across multiple facilities, do you see any common problems that people have that you try and focus on? Or are there anything that stands out as a common problem or common challenge?
I think currently the same, I wouldn't call problem or issue, but everybody's looking for more productivity to improve productivity annual year over year, right? The idea is to be more productive, produce more with less resources, and that's the trick point. And I believe that everybody, not only our company but all companies, are facing the same issue.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, everybody wants to, and I don't know. You wonder because one of the things we see is, I mean, there is a limit to performance. There's always ways to get better, but sometimes people expecting, for instance, to be 10% better every year up against the reality of how what your system is capable of doing. But yeah, that's a continual balance, definitely. So let's talk about something that everybody is the hottest topic, right? It's artificial intelligence. Are you using artificial intelligence in any of your continuous improvement efforts? Are you setting up, for instance, coaching systems? How is artificial intelligence affecting or not affecting your work? And what do you see its role in the future?
I would say that currently you don't have AI applied to our current daily job. We have spot applications, but much more uh, on people that are curious about AI, that they like AI and they are using somehow, but you don't have a structure process or a structure project strategy to apply for. I believe that this is really critical. This scientific approach is really critical to the systems as the systems are become more and more complex. So we need some tools that help us to be faster on decision maker, supporting us to recognize some patterns, to help us on creating scenarios to make us or to help us to make a better decision faster.
Yeah. It is a huge time saver, looking at new instructions, doing training. There's lots and lots of opportunity out there. And we're kind of, I think, just at the beginning of that. There's when with all the money following AI, it generates a lot of conversation, which is completely understandable. But I think it's kind of like we were at the beginning of the computer age, when the personal computer was first invented. It took a few decades before it really kicked into gear. So we'll see. But I think what you describe is similar to what I hear other people describing. That, like, yeah, some people are a little bit further along. Others say, yes, we're looking into it, but it's not prevalent everywhere.
And I believe that the most important is to learn not how to use the tools, but how to use the outcome. We need to be ethical. We need to be critical on the outcome and not rely on immediately to their answer.
No, that's exactly right. I love AI. I use AI. I don't trust AI at all. I mean, that's one of the things, one of the benefits, actually. People say, well, why do I need operation science? So it's like, well, you need to understand the basic behavior so that you understand when AI gives you an answer, does the answer make sense? Because a lot of times it will give answers that look like they make sense, but they're actually wrong. You have to be really, really careful about that. On a different topic, back to productivity, how do people balance that? I mean, you want to be productive all the time, but you also have to maintain quality, and then of course there's traceability requirements. How do people maintain that balance between productivity and quality and compliance and safety, of course?
For me, there is no balance between quality and productivity. For sure, safety first, and you cannot open the quality or to relax to quality just to achieve the productivity. We need to deliver quality anyway. What we need to do is to focus on the key offenders and improve the productivity, but never decrease the quality of our products or services.
Yeah, that's a quick way to go out of business. You start making things cheaper, but they don't stand up. So it's along those lines. I mean, when we're talking about productivity, how do you measure productivity? Is it revenue per employee? Some other measure? What are your measures for productivity?
I would say that basically on the operation side, that's important to show to our people in the shop floor. We are talking much more around OE. We are talking about productivity, how many good parts we are producing compared to what our customer requires, compared to our attack time. Basically, this is the productivity that you are showing and measuring. For sure, there is the financial productivity that we have other ways to measure, but not daily, not daily activity. We are using overall equipment effectiveness.
Okay. So when you're looking at projects, some of them have short term, you can see the results. Some of them have, well, it's going to take longer for us to see the results. And, other ones, it's like, well, it's kind of hard to connect this to financial results, but it's something that we feel like we need to do anyway, because, for instance, it makes people's work environment more comfortable or more ergonomically suitable for people. How do you gauge those benefits when you're selecting projects? Does it have to have a financial impact, or what determines who's going to do it? What determines what projects you're going to do?
For sure, running the VSM, we focused on our bottleneck, our constraint is where we need to work on, but not only on that place. For example, if you have 5S, this is one of the initiatives from me that you are not going to see a direct impact on P&L, correct? So, but if you do not do a 5S in our organization, you are not going to identify the inventory. You are not going to be able to find to meet the takt time. You're not going to be able to work on the cycle time or the setup reduction because everything is a mess. And for sure, if you do 5S, you're going to identify that you bought much more tools that's needed because you didn't find and decide to buy a new one. So direct involved in the cost could be a small quantity, but this is the behavior that you have. Or if you're talking about standard work, if you do not use the standard work, we are not going to generate cost reduction sometimes, but you are going to be able to analyze the process that you are doing. If you're achieving the takt time, if you're delivering time, the product with quality, if you're having some rework, if you're doing overtime, if you are over capacity, for example. So this is the way that we're not going to prove the P&L impact, but for sure you are supporting to be there.
Okay, so it sounds like then what you're trying to do is just align with the results you're trying to accomplish. Those results are tied to corporate strategy. And so the idea is, well, if we support our results, that'll support the corporate strategy, which will give us the P&L impact that we want, which makes complete sense.
No, I would say that besides those initiatives, for sure you have the ones that impact P&L. We need to have that because this will contribute to our performance, our productivity, to our results for the year, to deliver to the shareholders.
So in your experience, what separates your plants from the ones who can sustain benefits, right? Because a lot of times what happens is people do projects, they get an initial benefit, and then it just goes away. They just go back to doing what they were doing. In your experience, what separates organizations that achieve sustained results versus ones that are continually struggling with their improvements?
I would say the constance of a purpose, the continuity of a strategy. Because I see some organizations change their strategy every year, change the process every year, change the way that they work every year. Why they are going to get results if they keep changing all the time?
Yeah, that's interesting. So what drives that? One of the things that I've seen is that, for instance, when you change management, and particularly in large organizations like the one you're working in, managers come and go, and then the new manager comes in, and one thing that occurs is the new manager comes in, well, they want to make their mark, so they can't do what the old manager did, even though it was working fine, and so they have to change. When you see the organizations that do change all the time, is it changing because people are moving around, or is it because They just think changing is going to make it different.
Yeah, this is one of the points that sometimes happen. People wants to leave their stamp, right, their mark, but having a corporate standards, having standard process that we need to follow, as we discussed in the beginning, that's are mandatory. When we have a problem, you don't discuss the way that we're going to approach, because we have the way to approach. We are going to discuss the problem. We are going to discuss the actions to improve. That's the point, you know. If everybody is new, and if no and those new people come to the company, and those people do not learn about the business process, probably they will need to try to put their mark. But this is the first step: learning the company culture, learning the company business system.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and it speaks to the importance of having well-defined processes, because you are going to have new people come in, and if they don't understand the way the processes are set up, they tend to change things around, and it's a constant struggle. But I think you're right. I think having a well-defined process, a well-defined culture, and integrating people into that. I mean, you want fresh eyes. I mean, that's what the continuous improvement team does, and that's what new people do coming into organization. But you have to balance that with, hey, if it's working fine, unless you can show something that changes it to make it work much better, let's don't change it, because that's just going to cause more problems.
And that's okay to propose and to challenge the standard process, right? You can improve. You can propose something different, but this must become a new standard. It's not everybody created their own standard.
That's a great point. That's right. If it's such a great change, well, then it ought to be standard for everybody. All right. Well, let's switch topics here a little bit and talk about Andre the Man. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? I think you're in Poland, right?
Uh, I'm in Poland for 2 years, basically, but I'm from Brazil. I was born in Brazil. Yeah, really. Yeah. And this is the challenge that I have to move to Europe. And I'm very happy here. Poland is a great country. People were really nice. I had a very warm welcome here. I'm learning the weather, as we discussed in the beginning. It's totally different from the place I grew up. So it has been amazing.
So your early influences, though, I mean, did you know that you wanted to go into manufacturing to begin with? Were your parents in manufacturing, or what did they do?
My background is engineering, and I started as an intern in logistics, and I was invited to work in IT. Yeah, yeah. I started in IT, working as a project manager, supporting engineering and manufacturing systems, quality system as well. A long journey in IT, I decided, okay, I need to learn the operations. I have my background in engineering, my graduation. I work with people from manufacturing because I was support them, and then decide, okay, I need to go there. And it was my first move, big move, I would say, moving from IT to operations to work on CI in the OPEX. It was my first role, and that's the way I, I'm here.
So you have an engineering degree, you go to work in IT, and so that was your 20s and 30s, and how long how long did you work in IT?
10 years, 10 years. I would say between my 20s and 30s.
Okay. And so then when you got into operations, you're still in operations. So evidently you decided, well, I like this. I don't want to go back to IT. Is that right? Or do you think you might go back?
That's correct. It was a passion to work on the operations.
So why do you like operations more than working in project management and IT?
It's difficult to explain. It's really difficult to explain. But consider that we, even when I was in program management or project management that I really enjoy as well, I'm working to produce some parts. I'm working to produce components. I'm produce products. in IT, we are producing service. I think this is the big difference. All of them has their own, I would say, good points and bad points. But for me, what was much more attractive is to produce products instead of service.
Yeah, so you like the physical production and seeing the results of your handiwork.
I used to joke that I like to feel to smell the oil.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, you don't really smell that with computers. That's true. Yeah, it's not so tactile. Well, was there somebody who influenced you significantly? Did you have mentors along the way who influenced you to where you are today? And what were some of their insights and guidance?
I would say that I had very good mentors, coaches during this time. I wouldn't be fair if I start listing all of them, because probably you forget somebody for sure. Because in each of the areas that I worked in IT, supply chain, program management, OPEX, different sites, and not only all the managers that I had, but people that I worked together, probably I will miss somebody. 30 years of my career, it's difficult to point to one single person. But they know who they are. They know who they are. They know who they are.
Is there any particular piece of advice that you got, and it doesn't matter who it's from, that has stuck with you through your career?
Keep focused. Keep focused. Looking for what I want, and being very honest, transparent, ethical, more than other things, and create a good relation to everybody. Be very transparent.
Okay, so when you're outside of work, what do you do for hobbies? Are you a runner or a biker, or what do you?
I used to run a few years ago, but when I moved to Europe, I changed I changed it a lot. I'm much more focused to learn the culture here in Europe, because Europe has history. I think much more than the other place that I had the opportunity to visit. And this is the what I'm doing. I'm going to run or walk around, but not in a regular way. I'm not the best guy to give advice on workout, running, and so on.
Yeah. So have you been traveling a lot then since you moved to Europe?
Uh, I would say much more than when I was in Brazil, for sure, because we have some driving distance place that's really amazing. Short flights that you can spend over the weekend.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, there's plenty to see there. So last question, what advice would you give to younger engineers or managers who want to build a career in continuous improvement or manufacturing leadership?
I would say to work and learn as much as you can on what you love. That's the point, because this will not be a job. It will be a pleasure, it will be a hobby. And for sure, create a relationship. Keep your contacts, keep your good people close to you. Talk about life, not only about the job. Uh, uh, I I I would say that I'm an old school. I like to come to the office instead of being home office, because I like to talk to the people.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the relationships at work are can be some of the best ones you have your entire life. Absolutely. Well, listen, Andre, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast and sharing your insights in continuous improvement. I think there's a lot of good material there for our audience to take away. And I appreciate, again, you being on the podcast, and I look forward to continuing the conversation in the future.
Sure. Thanks so much, Eddie, for the invitation again. The conversation was pretty amazing. I love it, and I hope that I could share a little bit about the experience I have.
You did a great job. Thank you, Andre. Take care.
Thanks so much, Ed.
All right. Bye-bye.
The Operation Science podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. Join the Operations Science Institute at opscience.org. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not represent their company's views unless specifically stated as such.